All right, good evening. Call the meeting to order. There we go. No sound.
Everyone to attend and participate in city council meetings. This is part of how democracy works. This video is going to provide you with an overview of how the city of Nixa conducts city council meetings. We encourage everyone to attend and participate in city council meetings. This is part of how democracy works at the local level, listening to the perspectives of subject matter experts, city residents, and other community members helps our elected leaders make more informed decisions. Before we start the meeting, let's review some of council's rules of order. These rules help us make sure our meetings are orderly and efficient, while protecting the ability of everyone to have an opportunity to speak. Please be respectful of the person speaking and hold your own comments until it is your turn to speak. Presenters are invited by the council to provide information during the meeting to the council. These are informational presentations only, and nothing will be voted on at the time of the presentation. Presenters are not time limited. There are 2 times when all other visitors will be able to speak to council. The first is during the visitor section of the agenda, and the second is during any public hearing regarding an agenda item. During the visitor section, anyone may speak to council about any topic, whereas the public hearings regarding specific agenda items allow you to make comments for council to consider before they make a decision on that topic. Whether you wish to speak during any public hearing or the visitor section, the following rules of order will apply. 1. Only one person should speak at a time. Be respectful of the person speaking and wait to speak until it is your turn. 2. Anyone speaking must do so from the podium and speak into the microphone. 3. You must first state your name and provide your address in writing to the city clerk before beginning your comments. 4. All speakers will be given 5 minutes to make their comments to the council. The mayor or council may have additional questions for speakers after this 5-minute period. 5. All comments should be addressed to the mayor and council. 6. If you have questions about existing city processes, programs, or policies, or if you need assistance from staff on any issue, please contact City Hall during normal business hours and we'll be happy to assist you or answer any questions you may have at that time. The public hearing is designed to provide the public an opportunity to provide testimony and information to the mayor and council regarding the decisions they may be considering. Keep in mind this meeting will be recorded and live streamed with video and audio. Therefore, all comments relevant to this meeting must be spoken into a microphone, otherwise video viewers will not be able to hear you. In the case of a closed session or technical difficulties, some meetings or portions of meetings may not actually be recorded or streamed. The use of cell phones during council meetings is discouraged, so please silence all devices now. Thank you for watching, and thank you for engaging with the City of Nixa. The meeting will begin shortly.
Sean Lucas.
Here.
Aaron Peterson.
Here.
Darlene Graham.
Here.
Zern Bess.
Here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I assume you've all had a chance to review the consent agenda. Would anybody like to remove anything from the consent agenda? If not, I will accept a motion.
So made.
Second.
First by Mr. Peterson, second by Ms. Graham. Roll call, please.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Aaron Peterson.
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Zern Bess.
Yes.
Kelly Morris.
Yes.
And before moving on, Resolution 2024-03, that is the executing a contract with the Nixa Chamber of Commerce. We currently have one person absent tonight, and then Ms. Graham works for the Chamber, and Mr. Vess is on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, so they would both need to recuse themselves. So that leaves us with not a quorum for that one item. So I would Need a motion to postpone Resolution 2024-03 to the February 6th meeting.
So made.
Second.
I already forgot what she did. Roll call. Okay. Roll call, please.
Zernbest,
Here.
Can we vote?
He's here too. Sorry.
he can vote to postpone.
They can vote to postpone it,
Yeah.
yep.
So Zernbest. Yes. Kelly Morris,
Yes.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. And the first thing on the agenda tonight is our service award for Cindy Robbins for 35 years of service. Typically, I don't say anything on these, but back in, I believe, 2017, Cindy was the very first person with the city that I interacted with when I sent an email after I read something in the newsletter about an open position at the city. And she has been unbelievably helpful, and I'm surprised that she's celebrating 35 years, because I figure most people can't deal with me for even 2 years. But you have helped me more than I could even describe. There's so much stuff that I had to learn that, you're just a wealth of knowledge. And you definitely keep this city running. So thank you very much.
All right. Well, Mayor, Council, as the mayor said, 35 years. I can tell you that's pretty exciting because she's just now got halfway to retirement. So we are excited about that. So she's got a few more years left with us. But she's been here a very long time, which is fantastic. So I actually had to write things out because I normally don't do that. But I'm going to read this one because there's been so much over the years. So. And I'll also mention this. I was just checking with Amanda, and I'm not sure, but I think it might be the second longest tenure in Nixa's history at this point. So that's also something to be said. So very, very good thing. So, all right, I'll just say, during her time, Cindy has held multiple positions with the organization, including some of the positions of utility account specialist, deputy city clerk, and most recently, the assistant city administrator. Along with her tenure comes obviously a vast knowledge of not only her current position, but most aspects of municipal government and just about everything that has to do with the city of Nixa. I will say personally, she is truly my right-hand person. Her work as the assistant city administrator has been a blessing not only to me, but this entire organization. She's also taken on the role of business liaison, which I think that she's made a great successful program. She's also started the LEAD program, which has supported community listening sessions, the mayor's tree lighting, now even a multicultural event that is held annually. She's also serves on multiple boards and committees, including the OCAC board, the MU Extension board, and represents the city on the SIMCOG board as well, just to name a few. She's also been recognized throughout her career with numerous customer service awards. And actually, I don't know if everyone knows this, but she actually received a mayor's proclamation honoring her achievements in obtaining the Missouri Registered City Clerk status, which I can tell you is definitely no easy task. And then in 2022, she was chosen as the Nixa Community Foundation's Extra Mile Award. Her professional accomplishments obviously are something to be proud of, but I will say that it's never been about recognition for her, although it is greatly deserved. It's always been about serving and giving her all for this community and for this organization. So I'll say that we are truly blessed to have her as part of this organization. So thank you.
And since we didn't move the backdrop, we're going to take our picture later. All right. So I'm going to hold this hostage until, it'll be tonight. Don't worry. I'm sure we can get some help to move that later. All right. Well, I know it's probably going to be hard to follow that up. So moving on to our presentation from Southwest Missouri Water.
Mayor and Council, we have a presentation tonight from Mr. Roddy Rogers, who is the Executive Director of Southwest Missouri Water. I want to take a few moments to introduce him and to give you an understanding of why we've asked him to be here tonight. Later this evening on your agenda is a resolution requesting you consider the execution of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Nixa and Southwest Missouri Water to aid in securing future water rights for the City of Nixa. The city has been a participant in Southwest Missouri Water for over 20 years now and has been working through the effort of securing a future water allocation from Stockton Lake. Mr. Roddy Rogers, who is the Executive Director of Southwest Missouri Water, has also been with the organization pretty much since the beginning, roughly the beginning of the organization as Tri-State Water. Prior to his role as Executive Director of Southwest Missouri Water, he was the water quality manager, is that? Water system manager for city utilities for over 20 years. During that time, he was a liaison and the participant on Southwest Missouri Water. So he's been aiding the organization in securing an allocation of water through the Corps of Engineers for Stockton Lake. I've asked him to come here tonight to aid in our discussion for the resolution and provide you an overview of Southwest Missouri Water, their efforts in Southwest Missouri to secure a water allocation for the entire Southwest Missouri area, and what is happening with them and how we're planning on moving forward. So with that, I'd like to introduce Roddy Rogers.
Thank you, Travis. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you all this evening, and I'm going to start kind of broad and work down to specifics without getting too far in the weeds. I'm going to try and be concise and move quickly. And I thought I'd start with a quote from a very brilliant lady. Helen Keller said, "The only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision." And that's connected to a lot of what we've done with Southwest Missouri Water, because we've had a lot of foresight and planning, but without that vision of what it looks like without water and what it looks like with water, that really gives you the motivation to engage in this. And so I'm going to try to get to the bottom line first. This is moving faster than I thought here. Southwest Missouri Water is about securing water for our future, because if there's no water, there is no future. And we've been working, as Travis said, for 20 years to get an allocation of water rights for storage in Stockton Lake for drinking water. And that will be a huge investment for Southwest Missouri, but it's going to have huge positive impacts and returns. So I wanted to talk a little bit about just Water 101, and then talk a little bit about Southwest Missouri Water and who we are and what we're about in a little more detail, why we've been doing what we're doing, and then take a look back where we're at now and what's up ahead and some of the challenges, and then give you some conclusions and takeaways. Most of you probably understand the hydrologic cycle, which is just the water, it comes out of the sky, it rains, we use it, it goes into our aquifers and our surface reservoirs, it evaporates and comes back around again. It's a closed cycle. That's just another way of saying we got all the water we've ever had, and we got all the water we're ever going to have. If you look at all the water in the world, based on the population, there's about 46 billion gallons per person. But that's not all fresh water. That next blue ball is the fresh water. That's about 350 million gallons per person, but that's not all accessible. The tiny blue dot that you probably can't see represents all the fresh water that's accessible. That's 3 million gallons per person. And that's a lot of numbers, and you probably think, what does that mean? Well, even at that, with a pretty high usage, which we in the United States are some of the highest users, that allows everybody on Earth to live till they're 84 years old. And you're probably thinking, well, what's the problem? Well, the problem is that the water and the people aren't in the same place. And that's a lot about what we're about, is getting the water and the demands at the same spot. And that could lead to a national infrastructure of water. We've done it with highways, we've done it with our power system, we've done it with oil pipelines, but waters remain mostly local because the sources are local and you've got to treat it based on local parameters. And the infrastructure is expensive, as all infrastructure is. Transmission mains for water are about $4 million a mile. But that's about a fourth of what we spend on highways. And I would argue that it's a lot more important than highways, because you can live without highways and you can't live without water. And anything of that magnitude, you got to plan out far way ahead, because you're going to have twists and turns that you don't expect. And one of my favorite sayings is that if you want it bad, you get it bad, which is a military saying that means if you get in a hurry, you're going to pay more for it, it's going to take longer, and you're going to have less quality. And we've all been in the last 5 minutes of that test, and we're not ready to be done. And we cannot be there with drinking water. And the thing that exacerbates it is drought. Drought is something that you can be in the middle of before you realize it. It's kind of like this lady on her phone with her neighbor, and she's asking her, can you go to your window and tell me what's in my front yard? It's too late at that point, and drought's the same way. You cannot wait until you need it. You're in the middle of the drought to get water because you just won't have time to get it. So with that, let me talk a little about Southwest Missouri Water. We're an umbrella organization for the Tri-State Water Resource Coalition and the Southwest Missouri Joint Municipal Water Utility Commission. That's a lot of words. Tri-State, it's not really Tri-State anymore. Kansas and Oklahoma used to be a part of this. They're not anymore, so we've tried to rebrand to Southwest Missouri Water. But the coalition remains as our communication advocacy side of things. The commission is a public entity just like you all, or our utility. And they're the ones that will build the project. We've got boards of directors for both. A lot of the same people in overlap. I serve as the executive director. And the beauty of the commission is that publics and privates can work together. Privates can't be a member of a public entity, but they can be participants in a project. These are our members. The ones with the asterisks are members of both organizations. That represents about 850,000 people, soon to be 1 million. Our objective is to develop a quality water resource for drinking, for industry, and for firefighting. The whys, I've already hit on one, is that it is a limited resource. If you look at the growth in Missouri over the last 30 years, it's in Southwest Missouri. If you look at it over the next 30 years, it's Southwest Missouri, and we're right in the heart of that. It's also a huge economic driver, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And obviously, it sustains our lives. And again, I keep hammering on it, the time is now to get on top of it. As far as economic driver, it takes water for just about everything we use in our daily lives. Pizzas, t-shirts, cell phones, cars, they all take water. So if there's no water, there is no jobs. In fact, if you were to shut down the water in the United States for one day, it would cost our businesses and our economies $43.5 billion. So water is money. And groundwater is not the answer to the future. We've done a lot of studies. This is from Popular Mechanics, says our aquifers are shrinking. There's another one here. This is just 2 weeks ago from the New York Times. It says we're running out of groundwater, and we're really not running out, but it's when you drill these holes in the ground, you get cones of depression, and when you put them close together, they overlap, and you get to the point where you're mining the aquifer. In other words, you're taking the water out faster than it can be replenished, and that's happening in Kansas, Arkansas, and Missouri. Also, just generally speaking, our water demand is going to increase by 55% by 2050, specifically a 400% increase in manufacturing and industrial demand. And there's some new interesting trends in the value of water. It's now worthwhile to steal water, and it's happening all over the world. South America right now, they are spending more time on policing water theft than they are on water quality. They've been going out, and the regulators are going out in convoys of cars, of 5 or 6. They get pelted with stones. They've been held hostage, and their state park reservoirs are being decimated. Even in the United States, several industries steal the water. Illegal cannabis industry steals millions of gallons every year. They issued about $6 million worth of fines last year, and they said it didn't even touch it because they make enough in a few days to pay a lifetime worth of fines. So all that to say that water now has a street value. But it's not just an illicit street value, it has a Wall Street value. And there are several firms on Wall Street, and I'll just give you one example. Water Asset Management's a firm started by a man named Matt DeSario. And they have bought up land in Arizona and Colorado, California, Nevada, have pending purchases in New Mexico and Texas, not to develop it, not for agriculture, but for the water rights. And Mr. DeSario says that water is a $1 trillion market opportunity. He founded his firm on the core idea that it will be the resource defining this century, just like oil defined the last century. And that's just one firm. There's several like that. But before we get too much into the monetary value, it's worth it just on its life-sustaining value. You only need to look at the third world, and the reason that they're a developing world is a lot because of their water systems and lack of. The time that they spend to carry water it takes away from their ability to have jobs, to have an economy. And when you do put a water system in one of these places, it literally brings that community to life, and it's an excitement over a new way of life that we can't really understand because we've really never been out of water. And it's a blueprint for social contracts. So with that, let me kind of drill down into Southwest Missouri Water, kind of where we've been, where we're at now, and what's up ahead. And this isn't intended for you to read, but to show the magnitude of a water project like this. We started, as Travis said, in 2003 with a whole bunch of studies to justify the need or to find the need. And right now we're at the cusp of what we think of getting a reallocation of water from Stockton Lake. And if we do, there's going to be a lot of things to do to implement that, infrastructure and permits and a lot of things. So you can see 03, we're at 2023, 24. We've been at this 20 years. And it goes out, the planning horizon is 2060, and that's not unusual for water. So the takeaway here is it's not a 5 or 10-year project. This is a decades-long effort. So let me break it down just a little bit more. I won't get too far in the weeds. In 03, as I said, we started with the tri-state based on a groundwater study that said that's not a reliable source for the future. And so we said what sources are available. And we looked at groundwater, we looked at building new reservoirs, and we looked at existing. And based on that study, we made the reallocation request to the Corps for allocation from Stockton, Table Rock, and Pomme de Terre, and that was in 07. Then we did some more cooperative studies with the Corps on how much we have, what's the gap between how much we have and what we need, formed the commission and established some bylaws, update our requests, and then in 2014, the Corps said, okay, we'll study this to see what answer we can give you. We asked in 07, 7 years later, they said we're going to start studying it. So hopefully you can see how this lays out. You got to be ahead of it. We updated the request in 2016 because people change, and we did a rate study recently on the costs. I've got a stack of studies literally about that high in my office. Basically, again, how much water do we have? How much do we need? What's the gap between the two? And it covered these 16 counties. And the bottom line was that we've got a gap of 53 million gallons per day between what we have and what we need. And we looked at a lot of specific scenarios, wet years, dry years, drought years, lots of demand, not lots of demand, groundwater, no groundwater, and all the combinations. And this is just one of them. The bars represent what we need. The purple line is what we have, and you can see that what we need is more than what we have. If you don't like graphs, they concluded in words, there's significant gaps in supply during drought. So here's where we're at now. The Corps has completed the report in July 2020. They left out for review and public comment through January of 2021. So again, remember we made our request in 07. It took 7 years for them to say we're going to study it. It took, I don't know what it is, about 7 years, but it took 7 years to do the study. And we now have been at this 20 years, and we hope for that to go to the headquarters this year. And it has to be approved by the Assistant Secretary of the Army at the Pentagon. This is a process that hundreds of people have to put their hands on. And then we can commit to taking that storage, we can negotiate contracts with the Corps, execute the contracts, and begin to pay for it. So you can see there's still some legal things we got to go through to get to that first step of having the water. So we're getting into why you got to be ahead of it. At the time of the study, the cost of that storage was $33 million or $1.6 million annual debt service. And then some operation and maintenance costs. That's now inflated to $45 million, $2.7 million, and $170,000. And by the time we sign the contract, it could be pushing $50 million. The infrastructure, it's a scary number for the pipes, the pumps, and the tanks. It's $1 billion. But at the end here, I'm going to tell you how that's very doable. And it's also got a positive economic impact of about 8,000 jobs and $500 million pumped into the Southwest Missouri economy. Looking ahead, we've got to start getting ahead on this infrastructure. We've got some aerial photography ordered to start laying out maps, flushing out sensitive areas that we want to avoid so that we can define the right-of-way. And what's the pump station going to look like? How much rock's underneath the ground? Where's the power coming from? Permits to get, public information workshops, right-of-way activities, and we want to be good neighbors with those whose property we're going to have to cross. and mitigating sensitive areas, and that's all before you get to the design, much less the construction. So thus the long lead time. But right now, we got to have the water storage contract. If we don't have a water source, we don't need anything else. Nothing else matters. So we got to get that contract in place. That's the $45 million for the storage. And pay for it. And probably this is a one-time opportunity. Springfield did this back when I worked for them back in the mid-90s. It took 10 years back then. We've been at it 20. If somebody was to start now, it could be even more, 25, 30 years, and there's no guarantee that they would say yes or that it's going to be available again. Challenges, one thing is that the people we're doing it for, the stakeholders, most people, we take water for granted, me included. The things that we buy every day, like a gallon of ketchup is $11 to $12, a gallon of gas $2 to $3, internet for a day is $2. You can get a gallon of dirt for 17 cents. You can get 20 gallons of water for less than 15 cents. It's over 20 times less expensive than dirt. And we just don't put a lot of thought into it or value. Benjamin Franklin said we know the worth of water when the well runs dry. And from the sound of it right now, it's not going to run dry very soon, but most of us have never experienced having the well run dry. We're more attuned to this hydroillogical cycle where we're apathetic towards it, and when we can't water our lawns, we get panicky, it rains, and we become more apathetic again. And what we don't want to do is get stuck in that drought where it's stopped raining and we're stuck in that panic mode. I think sometimes the solution may be that if I just go to talk about water and how much we need it, it pours down rain about every time I do that. Okay, I've talked about drought, and you may think, well, can that really happen? And it can. This is just about 5 years ago in Cape Town, South Africa, and that's a very metropolitan, progressive city. They had a plan just like we do. They kicked the can down the road. They didn't want to spend the money, and the drought hit. And they were standing in line for buckets of water. And they've kind of gotten through it, but now they're building infrastructure just as fast as they can, and it's costing them way more than if they would have phased this in over time. And we are kind of at the stage that they are now. They are going to feel the negative impacts of this for decades to come. And you might say, well, that's on the other side of the world. Well, you just need to look out west at Lake Mead and Lake Powell. That's the high and the low in 2018-19 on those colored lines. In 2020, the high was what the lows were just 2 years earlier. And they've kind of gotten through it. It's gotten a little better, but that lake has dropped over the height of the Statue of Liberty. And that's a 158,000 acre lake. It supplies 5 million acres of farmland and 40 million people with water, and that farmland's going fallow, and it's affecting our grocery prices. And they're in a bad way with water on how are they going to get enough for power and drinking and agriculture and everything. Move a little further east to Arizona, they've been drilling wells, they continue to drill wells, and now their aquifers are depleted. They've dropped over 160 feet. There's communities that are hauling buckets of water into their homes to wash their dishes and flush their stools. And their DNR deputy director has said that days of utilizing groundwater for development in Pinal County, which is Phoenix area, it's over. You got to bring your own supplies, and if you don't think out the worst case scenarios, you're putting your head in the sand. And that's happening right next door to us in Kansas. The Ogallala Aquifer used to be considered an infinite source of water. It's now going to be depleted in about 5 to 10 years. So every entity has an important decision to make. All of our members do, all of Southwest Missouri. And you all, as Travis has said, have been engaged with a seat at the table in our organization for a long time, great participants. I always appreciate Travis. He thinks that he's always got our back if we thought about this, and Doug before him have been really good members of our organization. And now we are asking not only you, but all of our members for a non-binding memorandum of understanding that will be followed by a subcontract for this water storage so that we as an organization can negotiate a good contract with the Corps of Engineers and we know who's got some intent of taking water. We've asked for 94,000 acre feet. You might wonder what that is. An acre foot of water is an acre of water 1 foot deep. And during a de-droughted record, which is 50 through 54, that will yield 39 million gallons per day, which will meet, if you remember 53, it'll meet over half of our needs. Total cost, $2.7 million. That's that $45 million amortized, and then that operation and maintenance cost. So for an individual entity, and I'm 25%, I just picked because it's an easy number. If you take a quarter of the storage space, you pay a quarter of the yield, or you get a quarter of the yield and you pay a quarter of the cost. For you all, it's between 2 and 3%, not 25. And certainly, I think there are some thinking about taking more than what their gap need would be. I don't know, we're working on some things that could make these prices that I'm telling you be much more attractive and much less expensive. The term is always, once you have it, it's yours. It's your water perpetually. And you might still think, well, are we ever really going to have a drought here? This is our precipitation data in southwest Missouri for the last 100 years. The orange is dry, the green is wet. You can see it goes back and forth, but look at that last 25, 30 years, we've been through a really wet period, and we are due for another drought. We will have one, and it could be a long one. But even if you still don't believe that a drought would happen, where do you think the people are going to go that don't have water? And it's already happening. People are moving from where water isn't to where water is. The infrastructure cost over time, like I said, that's a big number. That's that $1 billion. If you amortize that, though, it's $50 million a year. If we got 1 million people at 2.5 people per household, 400,000 households, that's $125 a year per household. That comes out to 30 cents a day. And that's the big ticket item. That's the infrastructure. We do the same calculation for the water storage. That's what we need to pay for now. It's a penny per day. And I got to believe that we can afford a penny per day, even 31 cents a day for drinking water when we're paying $9 for a package of Oreos. It's about our future and it's about priority. So, conclusions and takeaways. I've answered this question, how much is it going to cost to do this? It's going to cost a lot. But the better question is, how much is it going to cost not to do this? The United States has spent over $250 billion in the last 40 years on drought. But the best question is, how much is the return on this? This has now got an investment value, a monetary value. Water is becoming more and more valuable, and it will only increase. So we can't succumb to the trends of kicking the can down the road. We've got to interpret them, be ready for them, and simply based on its life-sustaining value, water is worth it. But now blue is becoming the new green. So you may have planned to have adequate source water for 25, 30 years, and that's good, but it takes that long to develop the next source, and the next source is going to be regional. And it just makes sense for us to cooperate all across the region. Water is going to be more regional as we go forward and spread those costs out and the effort, share the effort. We can predict the future and kick the can down the road, but that's a no-win. But we get that water source in place. For those who come after us in our economies, it's a win-win. And I won't say it's more important than love, but you can live a lot longer without love than you can without water. And we've got to make the costs as palatable as possible. That's got to be secondary to making water possible. If we can get this water source in place for southwest Missouri, the future's golden for our region. I'd be happy to answer any questions on that.
Any questions? You just learned a lot, didn't you? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Luckily, this is one of those times you have time to digest that because we're going to talk about it again here in just a little bit. So if you have questions, you can ask then. All right. Well, now we will open up the visitor section.
Whitney Gisan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I also think water is important. I'm just kidding. Okay. I just wanted to take a couple minutes and give you a quick update on what's going on upcoming in the Chamber of Commerce. I'm Whitney with the Chamber of Commerce. I think I'm supposed to say that, right? This is all still new to me, so I'm getting used to it. But basically, I just want to make you a couple of things aware of a couple of events that are coming up. Big one that I'm very excited about is this Friday at 10:30 a.m. at the Chamber office. We are having a Chamber chat. We've invited all of our business members as well as anyone who is a business representative or owner in Nixa or does business in Nixa to come and discuss with us their experience as chamber members and their experience doing business in Nixa. And I would love it if anyone here wanted to come join, because I think showing a nice united front between the city, the chamber, I know Show Me Christian County is also going to be there to answer questions pertaining to county-wide efforts that I probably wouldn't be able to answer. So I just want to make you all aware of that if you wanted to come by and say hi. I think it's going to be a pretty good turnout for the first one. We're going to do a couple of them over the course of this year and then revisit how we want to move forward with having open conversations with our businesses. But I'm getting a lot of positive feedback just about having it, so I'm hoping we get a good number of people out to the chamber office to just kind of share their experiences doing business in Nixa. Another thing I wanted to let everyone know about is the gala that's coming up. That's February 10th. It's going to be a party, but like a restrained party in the beginning, you know, and then less so as the evening goes on, probably. I don't know. We're gonna have a fun time. We're gonna have awards ceremony, dinner, and of course, if you're looking for any tickets to that, please talk to Darlene. Just kidding, you can talk to me. You can probably talk to Darlene too. But that's what's coming up as well. I'm going to be jumping to Springfield to do a panel with their Chamber of Commerce coming up in February, which I'm pretty excited about. It's at really early in the morning. I almost said no, but then I realized that I should be friends with other people, even if it's early in the morning. But we have a lot of fun and exciting things coming in 2024. We are working with a couple of our entities to create some trainings for our businesses towards the end of this year. Some help with people in their public speaking, some help with people in just general good business. And we have Nixa is, as you all know, heavy in the small business arena. And a lot of those small businesses have great ideas and not a lot of training in how you run a business. So we're trying to bring some of that to our small businesses and make it available to them so they can not just have that great business idea, but how do you grow it? How do you market it? How do you run it so that you are successful and you continue? So anyway, I just want to give you a quick update. I'll be doing this from time to time just to make sure you know what's going on in the chamber world and with the chamber businesses. We're growing, and 2024 is going to be exciting. Does anybody have any questions before I sit down? It's not as cool as the water presentation.
What time is the chamber chat on Friday?
10:30 to noon, if we go that far. If we get to noon, I'm kicking everybody out. I didn't hear what you said. Because we close at noon. That's the reason. Can't stay later than that hour. Any other questions? All right, thanks so much.
Thank you. No one else has signed up. If you would like to speak, please do so at the time and fill out a speaker card when you are finished.
Yeah, I'll fill out a speaker card. My name is Ron Sanders. Live here. They say that character is not revealed in good times, but during times of adversity, during rough times, whenever you're faced with challenges and everything. And I was sitting back here and thinking about something. That's why I didn't have a card filled out there. But a few years ago, I was the enemy of the city, sort of. I came into the city hall, with a mission to, I guess do some damage, recall the mayor and all that kind of stuff. And for the first time, I met Cindy Robbins. And I want to tell you something, besides what Jimmy was able to say. During that time of adversity and everything, I was expecting people not to be nice to me. I was expecting people to be terse and, not have kind words. And whenever I met Cindy, she was one of the kindest people that I'd ever met in one of the worst situations that you could ever imagine. Me being one of the people that were doing something to the city that not very many people liked. And during that whole process, a process that took about 9 months, Cindy treated me with kindness and respect, and I couldn't say anything nicer. And she's only been great ever since. So Cindy's character was revealed during those hard times, during that rough particular situation. and I appreciate it. And I'm so glad that you've been here to take care of the city for 35 years and make sure that that kindness is extended to everybody, regardless of the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Almost wanted to clap on that one. All right, if anyone else would like to speak? If not, I will close the visitor section. All right, moving on to first reading of Council Bill 2024-04.
First reading Council Bill number 2024-04, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa declaring the necessity of acquiring by condemnation certain property rights over, under, and through real estate for the purpose of construction and maintaining stormwater and erosion control improvements, and authorizing certain city officials to do all things necessary or convenient to carry out the terms and intent of this ordinance. Presenting is City Attorney Nick Woodman.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm before you tonight to discuss Council Bill 2024-04. This relates to a subdivision that was approved by the council on January 19th of 2022. The city is currently involved in litigation concerning a drainage easement, which is a part of this subdivision and the improvement plans related thereto. This easement's purpose is to provide stormwater and erosion control improvements to mitigate the potential erosion of the roadbed of North Road. Without these improvements, portions of North Road are more prone to erosion, which creates a public safety concern. This was the reason why the drainage easement was included in the subdivision plans. Currently, we're involved in litigation where the property owner is attempting to have the easement declared void as it wasn't properly notarized, amongst other arguments that are being made. Because this easement is so important, though, to the infrastructure of North Road, staff is seeking approval from council to acquire the easement by eminent domain. We have transmitted an offer to the property owner, which was based on an appraised value of the easement, but to this date, that offer has not been accepted. And because this item relates to public safety and potentially ongoing maintenance concerns for North Road, staff is recommending approval of this bill. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have on this item.
Any questions? Mr. Woodman, how long is this? I'm trying to remember because I know we've been talking about this for a long time. How long has this been going on?
The lawsuit was filed in, I believe it was sometime in 2022, but the city wasn't made a party of it until the second half of 2023, I believe.
Because the original easement wasn't the city, was it?
No, so
was
that's
county.
another issue involved in litigation, is the easement was actually made out to the road district because this is on the borders of the city limits and unincorporated Christian County. So there is an element of that present too.
But the city is the one who's going to be impacted the most if this isn't fixed, correct?
Right. So, well, I mean, not necessarily, but because the improvements are being brought about because of a city-approved subdivision, and the city has the authority to engage in the eminent domain process, we've kind of made the collective decision to just kind of pursue this so that we can ensure that there's no public safety concern with North Road going forward.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. If there's no other questions, I will open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak on this bill, do so at this time. If not, I will close the public hearing. Moving on to second reading, Council Bill 2024-01.
Second reading Council Bill number 2024-01, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the 2024 annual budget to propose the funding and installation of new sidewalk and street lighting improvements along Old Wilderness Road. Presenting is Assistant City Administrator and Public Works Director Doug Colvin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This proposal is for action by City Council to amend the 2024 budget that would include construction of 2,100 feet of new sidewalk and street lighting improvements for Old Wilderness Road. It would take place between the Phase 2 of the Washington Commercial Development, which is near the new Cox Clinic, south to Mount Vernon State Highway 14, where it would tie into a sidewalk there. So we would have circulation from Northview all the way down to the highway. A quick overview of the cost included here is some additional engineering associated with updating and finalizing the plans that were mostly completed in 2021. Most of the updating would take place for ADA compliance, property owner name changes, if there's anything there, any additional right-of-way or easement changes we might need to have, which we don't anticipate a lot of, as well as the construction cost itself, which is considerably higher than it was in 2020, 2021 when we originally looked at this project. Total estimated cost to complete the project is $31,150. That is broke out into two parts for the budget amendment. The budget amendment would change the street department budget to, or increase it $316,500, and the electric department $34,650. It's staff's recommendation that the bill be passed to complete this project.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Colvin.
You're welcome.
We'll say in all the comprehensive planning stuff lately, sidewalks, sidewalks, sidewalks. We have heard that numerous times. All right, no other questions. I will open up the public hearing if you would like to speak on this bill. No? All right, I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? All right, I will accept a motion.
So made.
Second.
First by Mr. Peterson, second by Mr. Lucas. Roll call, please.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Zern Vess.
Yes.
Kelly Morris.
Yes.
All right, moving on to Council Bill 2024-02.
Second reading Council Bill number 2024-02, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending Chapter 2, Article 2, Division 5, Sections 2-40 and 2-43 for the purpose of establishing an appointments committee of the council and adopting procedures related thereto, presenting as City Attorney Nick Woodman.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. City Council conducted first reading on this item at the January 8th, 2024 meeting. It is now before you for second reading, and as a brief reminder, if approved, this bill would modify the city code to establish a standing committee of the City Council to review mayoral appointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have on this item.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Woodman. And just as a reminder, the reason that this was brought forward is because I wanted a little bit, or not even a little bit, actual oversight over some the Planning and Zoning Commission and any other thing that I might be in a position where I would appoint somebody. I think the whole council needs to be involved in that and not just be a decision made by the mayor. So if there's no questions, I will open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak on this, I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? I will accept a motion.
So made.
Second.
First by Mr. Lucas, second by Ms. Morris. Roll call, please.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Zern Vess.
Yes.
Kelly Morris.
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
And last, Council Bill 2024-03.
Second reading Council Bill number 2024-03, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa calling an election to be held on April 2nd, 2024, to submit to the qualified voters the question of imposing an additional 3% sales tax on all tangible personal property sales related to non-medical adult use marijuana, authorizing the city clerk to do all things necessary and convenient to submit said question to the qualified voters of the city, and providing for the enactment of said tax if approved, presenting as City Attorney Nick Woodman.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. As Becca stated, this is a council bill that, if approved, would transmit to the qualified voters of the city of Nixa the question of whether the city should levy an additional 3% sales tax on taxable personal property related to marijuana. This is a result of the state voters' approval of Amendment 3. City Council first read this at the January 8th, 2024 meeting. It's now on council's docket for second reading and final passage, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the council may have about this item.
So this was already, technically this was already approved by the voters of Christian County for that tax. And Christian County currently collects this percentage of the sales tax from a business within the city limits of Nixa. So this being approved would make it to where Christian County no longer receives that and the city of Nixa receives
Well,
it.
so what I will say about that's the question about who gets to collect what is subject to litigation throughout the state right now. The way the amendment is drafted, there is an open question about whether a city and a county can levy the same tax at the same time. For our purposes, it's very clear that the city has authority to levy the tax. And so the dispute is really with the counties to determine if their tax can stack, is what it's called, on top of the city's sales tax. So regardless of how that question is resolved, if the voters approve this tax, the city will be able to levy it and collect it. Whether or not it sort of bounces out Christian County's authorized tax, I can't really speak to. It's an open question right now with the Missouri court system, actually.
Gotcha.
But the authority for the city to levy the taxes is very clear and not in dispute. So regardless of however that question is resolved, the city would be able to collect the tax if approved by the voters.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, if no other questions, I will open up the public hearing if you would like to speak on this bill. Fair enough. I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? Anything else from staff? I will accept a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
First by Ms. Graham, second by Mr. Vess. Roll call, please.
Darlene Graham?
Yes.
Zern Vess?
Yes.
Kelly Morris?
Yes.
Sean Lucas?
Yes.
Aaron Peterson?
Yes.
Moving on to resolutions. Resolution 2024-02.
Resolution number 2024-02, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to solicit qualifications for services related to the pair of the Nixa Aquatic Center, presenting is Parks Director Matt Kraus.
Good evening. I'm excited about this one, to finally be able to bring you guys the plans for the pool. So lots of questions about what we are going to do with the pool, how we're going to make those repairs. And so we are finally able to bring those to you, and I'm excited to show you what they've come up with. I know we had a meeting scheduled last week to kind of get this one going. Unfortunately, the documents weren't quite ready from our engineers, and so they have provided those last bit of documentations and things needed for this. This resolution is to give us permission to seek bids to complete this project. But we have some nice renderings, and I'll be able to talk you guys through how this project will work. Drew, am I able to spin through this?
Mm-hmm.
So if you recall, the recirculation system, so the water leaving the filters, grabbing that chemical and heading back to the pool is our issue. We did those tests last year during the late part of the summer and determined that it is definitely the recirculation system that has our leak. And so those pipes need to be replaced. But how do we do it? That was the key for our engineers. What you're seeing in this particular diagram is everything in red is existing concrete or pool deck area within the pool or around the pool that has recirculation lines. This will all be demoed. So they will tear up all of this concrete, go down to those pool pipes, pull the existing recirculation pipes out, put the wall inlets back in that need to be installed, and then, of course, build that back up and re-concrete. The interesting part became the spot that is in red that is within the pool basin. So if you are familiar with our pool, that zero depth entry has floor inlets. So the water comes up through the floor and back into the pool. And it's how do we recommission those or get those working again to circulate that water, which is our chemical base, without tearing up too much of the pool basin. And what we have found, very difficult. It can be done, and you just tear up a whole lot of pool basin, but every time you create a new joint in the concrete, it is a leak point, a possible leak point. We've had those back in our past, and we've been able to repair them. However, they are more susceptible, and it's a greater area of interest whenever we have the more seams in that concrete. So what they're going to do, let me go back to that. Is the area within the basin, all of that concrete will be removed. We are going to decommission all of our floor inlets. So we will no longer have floor inlets within the pool. They will elevate a small area that I'll show you in a moment and bring that area up so they can run those circulation lines underneath that spot and repurpose that into the pool. And I'll show you what that looks like. Another area of this particular bid scope is new concrete decking, so adding more space for people to sit and enjoy. And so what you'll see there in the red is more concrete. Outside of the existing pool deck, it's all grass right now, but we will concrete that all in, and you'll see 3 new shade structures into that space, providing more seated, shaded area for our customer base and our community. You'll also notice the pie chunk, the little red spot there within the pool basin. It kind of looks like a little big piece of pie there. That is the area we're going to elevate approximately 2 feet. And so the water will become much shallower in that area. Pool piping will be put in. Our wall inlets will kick out of that area into the zero depth area and some back into this smaller area. And we'll install a play structure. It looks similar to this. And so again, you can kind of see where that pie chunk is out. They'll elevate that space. That water will now no longer be somewhere between 0 and 3 feet deep. It will only be 6 to 8 inches deep at its deepest. So again, a smaller play area. This will be great for the smaller kids. It'll be a big structure for them to play on, slides, spraying water, all sorts of great things that way. I believe I've got one more image. There we go. Of that, just to kind of, again, just a little bit of a rendering there of what that space looks like. Very colorful, lots of great things. This area does take water, lots of it. And so we are going to use the pump that we have not ever used, which technically we won't use that pump, it won't be any good. But the pump that was put in for our drop slide, we will issue over and route over to this particular area. So this will take away the ability for us to have a drop slide in our diving well, but bring that water into this space and provide the water necessary for this structure to use. Then the other exciting part, a splash pad. And so our community has said for years that they'd love to see a splash pad, and this will be our ability to add this space to our existing pool area. So I'm going to go through a couple here, and I'm going to travel back just a little bit. You can kind of see where this spray pad fit into where the pool is. Now, I'll tell you, this rendering is a little deceptive. I would move that spray pad a little bit more north or towards the words spray pad in this diagram, and it will be closer to that northerly direction. So they'll move it just a little bit more. If you're familiar with that area, it is just outside the pool area to the west of the pool or towards the playground from the pool. It's still a fairly flat, level space, but will provide us some opportunity to provide a cool water feature that is adjacent to the pool area and adjacent in a part of the pool. Now, a couple notes for that even. The water that this spray ground will use has no bearing on the pool. They are completely separate entities. So the chemical water in the pool charge and everything from the pool is not something that we will use for this playground. It will just pull fresh water from the pump house to the spray pad itself or the splash ground itself. And that'll be the only ties that that particular facility has to our pool, other than a little bit of electrical coming to it. And so just important that they can run together or separate. And so the pool can be shut down, the splash pad can remain open. And they are not tied to one another in that retrospect. Again, here's that kind of layout. There's lots of fun and exciting spray areas. Spray pads are designed to have a smaller kid area and a larger kid area, just like your pools are. The smaller areas typically don't spray water in your face and just aren't quite as aggressive for those smaller kids to things that are a little bit more active and a little bit more aggressive as they migrate into the bigger kid area. Here's just another angle of that. Ignore the huge buildings in the background because we don't have any of those. Another shot for you. And then just some of the neat little features that are within the pool. So let me make sure that I've kind of checked off everything on the list. Part of this is as well, we're going to rehabilitate our pump house, the insides of the pump house. The filters are that 20 to 22-year-old filters. They're sand and gravel. Their life expectancy is only 20 to 25 years. Some get more, some get less. We've been monitoring this for years, 3 to 5 years at this point. Where they still seem good, it is just a matter of time before we need to remedia our filters. And so this will give us that opportunity to pull those filters, clean them out, get them all looking good, and then get them filled back up with that sand and gravel and remedia. We'll do all the pool piping within the pump house and bring our pump house up to speed as well. Basically what we're going to have is a whole new working, brand new pool. Yes, it's going to have the old basin that we're used to seeing, but all the pipes, all the filters and everything within the pump house and around the pool will be new. Should be pushing us towards that 25-year plus time frame in design. All the piping, currently ductile iron or steel kind of, we'll be moving to Schedule 80 PVC. And so they'll use ductile fittings for that, but we'll do that all up with Schedule 80 so that we don't have that possibility of rusting pipes and that type of thing in the future for the pool that way. I think I have addressed just about everything, decking, insulation. Now, just a couple of points for the bid itself. We are giving this company until April 26th to complete the pool portion of the renovations. That's pool and pump house together so that the pool can operate. We are giving them a little bit longer until May 10th to complete the splash pad. We have invoked a penalty or a fine for not doing that. It's a per day fee of $1,500. Why? At that point, it starts to affect our ability to have our season. And so this would recoup those monies that would be lost by not having a pool or not having our pool up and running. Obviously, during the bid process, those discussions will happen with anyone that does put in a bid to make sure that they can adhere to those timeframes. And then we'll look at those from there. But it is an important part here that we should note with you guys as well. The one other piece here, our engineers have voiced the concern of being able to get the play structures and the pieces for that in. There's obviously some time delay there. So this bid process does kind of push that just a little bit. So they're asking that maybe we go ahead and order as the city, use some co-op pricing to attain the water play structure and the splash ground features for the pool. Something that we could order probably before the end of this week. Get into that production cycle and have that and provide that to those contractors. Other than the contractor then having to get to that as they are awarded the bid here in the next couple to 3 weeks. And so just one of those features that I'll kind of mention that we will look to do that just to help speed our timeframes along and keep things moving forward and as fast as possible. So the resolution before you gives us permission to get that ball rolling. We'll get this bid out tomorrow. We'll close that in 2 weeks. We've got 7 interested companies right now that have all voiced their interest in reviewing this project and taking a look. There may be other outside ones, but we know of 7 right now that are interested. So we'll be hoping to see bids from all of those, and we'll just see where we get to. Do you all have any questions for me?
Real quick, I'll add just a couple of things.
Yeah.
Just, Matt mentioned earlier that we're using the drop slide pump for the spray ground. I know there was some discussion early on with council about adding a potential drop slide. We did look at that, and Matt looked at that as well, and the pump house actually can't handle, my understanding is can't handle an additional pump, so we're kind of limited to doing just the spray ground. But I just want to mention that, because I know there was some discussion at some prior meetings about that. And then the second thing I wanted to point out is the splash pad, if we proceed with that, we're actually looking at utilizing impact fees to add that splash pad to the pool. So the impact fees, again, are fees that are collected off development that have to be used for new and additional things. So we can't really use that money to make repairs, but we can use it to add on to things to accommodate the growth of our community. So that's something that we're looking at doing with potentially with the splash pad. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Well, the fencing that goes around the pool, is that going to be altered at all? Like how it contains the pool, or is it going to incorporate the splash pad?
Technically, the existing fencing will not be altered. However, around the splash pad, there will be new fencing that will attach up to the existing fencing. So we will have the ability to open gates and let people move freely in between those two structures while at the pool.
Okay,
But then we could separate the two if something happened with the splash pad and it needed to be down for a period of time for cleaning. We could close the gates, clean it up, reopen the gates.
And then I also noticed that the splash pad looked like it was in a grassy area. Is it going to end up being concreted, because are we going to be tracking grass between the two areas?
No, everything will be concreted within that gated area or that fenced area, so that we're hopefully not tracking any of that in there. Obviously, there'll be some cleaning involved, but it won't be that bad.
Any other questions?
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you for all your work on this. I know it's
Been a
taken
long
some time. All right, if there's no other questions, I will open up the public hearing if you would like to speak on this resolution. All right, I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? I will accept the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
First by Ms. Graham, second by Mr. Peterson. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Perfect. Now get the pool fixed. All right, skipping that one and moving on to Resolution 2024-04.
Resolution number 2024-04, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa consenting to the mayor's appointment of Sean Lucas, Matt Ogden, and Kelly Morris to the City Council Appointments Committee. Presenting is City Attorney Nick Woodman.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. With the approval of Council Bill 2024-02 tonight, the council has established an appointments committee, and now we need to put people in those chairs. Resolution 2024-04, if approved, would appoint Mayor Pro Tem Lucas, Councilmember Ogden, and Councilmember Morris to the appointments committee, with Mayor Pro Tem Lucas serving as chair of that committee. I'm happy to answer any questions about this item.
There you go.
Can I vote nay on this?
He just found out he was a chair.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I was voluntold, I guess.
Yeah, my bad on that one. Any questions? You got any questions, Sean?
Nope. It's all good.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Woodman. If there's no questions, I will open up the public hearing if you would like to speak on this. Perfect. I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? I will accept the motion.
So made. Second.
First by Mr. Peterson, second by Mr. Vess. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you for volunteering on that. All right, moving on to Resolution 2024-05.
Resolution number 2024-05, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to solicit qualifications for professional design services for the new police department facility, presenting as Police Chief Joe Campbell.
Mayor, Council, attached is a request for qualification that was drafted with the help of Navigate Solutions to solicit proposals for a full design service for the construction of the police department. Our expected scope of work includes a total program review, validation for police department facilities, conceptual site planning, floor planning, building massing, budgeting, and schedule review. One thing that you might have a question about when I mention those things is, isn't that what we've done here with this particular graphic that you're seeing above? What I would remind you is that this was just merely a conceptual drawing, and although we did some of that process in trying to come forward with a appropriate budget when we were looking at this project initially, it did not go into great depth or detail, and it was explicitly talked about with Navigate as to how we might do that, incorporate that to ensure that when we go forward with the proposal and the construction process, that we have a really good design. We have covered all the potential costs, explored things that we didn't necessarily get into, such as civil and things of that nature. And so we felt like it was important to go through this entire exercise again with the new potential designer or the architect, and that we would come out with the best product possible if we did that. It's also an opportunity for us to look at any updates that might need to occur, think about things that maybe we didn't think about before, such as where the mechanical might go, or what challenges we might have with the building and the design area that we're proposing. We certainly intend to use a method called shortlist and interview. And so what we will do is we will put this out, and then once we get the proposals back, the idea would be that we would meet with Navigate, and with their help, we would make a short list and then start an initial interview process to narrow that down even further. This, again, would all be done kind of with the overwatch of Navigate Solutions. The timeline for the process will commence sometime in late January, and then we intend to wrap that up in late March. And of course, we attach the RFQ with the documents for your review, if you have any questions.
Any questions?
We're done.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
All right. No other questions. I will open up the public hearing if you would like to speak on this resolution. Fair enough. I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? All right, I will accept the motion.
So made.
Second.
First by Mr. Lucas, second by Ms. Morris. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, moving on to Resolution 2024-06.
Resolution number 2024-06, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute a memorandum of understanding with Southwest Missouri Joint Municipal Water Commission, JMUC, regarding reallocated water storage space at Stockton Lake. Presenting is Assistant Public Works Director Travis Cossey.
Well, I wanted to continue our discussion that we started earlier with Roddy's wonderful presentation that he gave on Southwest Missouri Water and the Joint Municipal Water Utility Commission, or JMUC, and continue that discussion as far as how that overarching view of our need for a regional water source and relates to the city of Nixa and what we're being asked to do here tonight. We're actually at a very exciting time because, as Roddy mentioned, we've been working on this for over 20 years to provide and secure an allocation of water for our future growth. It has been demonstrated that our existing groundwater source is not a sustainable long-term solution for our water needs as the area continues to grow. In an effort to secure an additional future water source, we have worked with the Corps of Engineers. After 20 years of studies and determinations and findings, we are very close to receiving an allotment from the Corps of Engineers for 38 million gallons of water for the regional umbrella 16-county area. Now, how does this relate to the city of Nixa? The city of Nixa, upon approval of that allocation, will be asked to enter into a pass-through contract with Southwest Missouri Water to secure that portion of that 38 million gallons that we feel we need for our future water needs. In our case, we're looking at 2.6% of that 38 million, or 1 million gallons per day. How this will work is that once approved, the Corps of Engineers will require that we make payment or purchase that entire allocation of the entire source at that time. Roddy, through his efforts with DNR, has secured a funding source for that on a 30-year note through DNR State Revolving Fund. He's been able to secure a very favorable rate on a 30-year note of 1.07% interest. Once that is determined, that loan will be made through the JMUC. JMUC will purchase that allocation, and at that time, all those participating members in that 16-county area will be asked to enter into contracts with JMUC to purchase that portion of that water allocation that each one of those entities wants. Again, in our case, we're looking at a purchase of 1 million gallons per day, 2.6% of the total allocation. On a 30-year note, we're looking at a payment of roughly $72,368 per year over the life of that loan for 30 years. This memorandum of understanding that you're being asked to consider tonight is to provide Southwest Missouri Water with a commitment, a non-binding commitment, that the city of Nixa is still interested in maintaining their seat at the table, that we do still want our allocation of that 38 million, and that we are willing to enter into a contract upon approval of that. It is, of course, non-binding. Contract negotiations will need to begin once that allocation is approved by the Corps of Engineers and that funding is secured by the JMUC through the State Revolving Fund. At that point, the city of Nixa will be asked to enter into that pass-through contract, and we will again have to negotiate with Southwest Missouri and work through the terms and specifics of that contract. But for securing purposes, Roddy is asking through Southwest Missouri that we enter into a memorandum of understanding. Each of the participating jurisdictions enter into a memorandum of understanding to provide that commitment he needs to go out and secure the loan with some measure of insurance that we will be participating and purchasing that water that he will be buying on our behalf. So with that, your consideration tonight is for a resolution of support for that memorandum of understanding that Mr. Rogers can use to move forward with the allocation as the Corps of Engineers approves it. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know Roddy was gracious enough to stay behind and wait for this discussion in case there's something I can't answer. He can sure jump in because he knows far more than I do about it.
Any questions? This is definitely something I would have liked to had in place whenever we were about to pump mud out of some of the water towers.
Yes, this is a
Water got
very
really
exciting
low.
time. This is a
Yeah.
very exciting time. We've been working on this for a long time. We, of course, have identified that we do have a need for future water, and to be able to secure a future water source and take the means necessary for future population of the city of Nixa, it is a good thing. It's very exciting.
Agreed.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
A million gallons, I mean, obviously that sounds like a lot, but when you think about the population and the growing population, do you think that's going to be enough, or do we need to secure more?
No, one of the things that Roddy touched upon was that through those studies and everything that we identified, we had a need for the region of 53 million gallons. The Corps of Engineers, after studying the allocation request through Stockton, is only able to support an authorization of 38 million. So It gets us closer to that goal of the water that we need for this region, but it doesn't get us to that finish line. So there will still need to be future discussions and future discoveries of additional water sources. So the short answer is no. Unfortunately, this doesn't provide all our needs, but it gets us a lot closer to what we do need.
How soon would that be available as far as like actually obtaining the water?
The water will become available upon the allocation. So once the Corps approves it, we'll be asked to purchase that allocation. But this is phase one of a multi-phase project. Phase one is securing the allocation. Once this is secured and all the parties have entered into contract for purchase of the allocation, the next phase of the project kicks in, which will be to develop the infrastructure necessary to move that water from Stockton Lake to all those participating jurisdictions. In our case, we are 100% groundwater supported, so we do not have treatment capabilities. We are looking to partner most likely with city utilities to provide the treatment and transfer and kind of piggyback. We're in a regional effort to secure the water. We will again be in a regional effort to transmit that water from the source, Stockton Lake, to each of those individual communities. So this is not the end of the project, this is the beginning of the project.
So it'll be a while before we could actually see the water, come into the community?
Yes, Mr. Peterson, we're working on a concept that will provide future water needs for Nixa beginning in somewhere around the year 2060.
How many other jurisdictions have already said yes to this?
Let's see, Roddy, help me out. We've got City Utilities has already entered into their memorandum of understanding. The City of Ozark has also authorized it. Monette as well. Stockton is under consideration. Mount Vernon.
Carthage is considering it.
Mm-hmm.
There's 11 in the J-Mug, and 6 or 7 of them have either signed it or considered it.
So what happens if somebody doesn't consider, or say passes it? Does that change our price in our plan, or does it stay the same if they haven't put in their contribution?
Good question, and that's one we're going to be working through. What Roddy will be doing is, if not all jurisdictions participate in that, we're hopeful that we are, and we're moving in that direction. Of course, all these jurisdictions have had 20 years to anticipate this moment. From there, the amount of purchase will be pared down, but our percentage will, of course, change and our funding will change. But at the end of the day, we're still looking to secure 1 million gallons.
Okay.
So our portion of it will remain the same as far as our allocation. Just the over umbrella amount will change.
Okay, thank you.
And from there, depending on how many don't participate, there could also be future discussions on if communities want to increase their allotment above and beyond what we initially asked for, 1 million. Again, to Mr. Lucas's point, we know that this isn't 100% of any one community's needs. It's only a portion of it, so there will be the ability to move forward from there. But fingers crossed, we're hopeful that all 11 jurisdictions in the 16-county area are going to participate as they've intended to do since the beginning of this venture, so that's our hope.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Cossey.
Thank you.
No other questions. I will open up the public hearing if you would like to speak on this resolution.
Wasn't intending to hang around this long. My name is Ron Sanders, and what we're doing here, I think, is we're inserting an organization. I don't think it's not a government entity. It's an organization in between a regional supply of water and the city, because the city doesn't have the ability to take $45 million over 30 years and build their own reservoirs or something like that. And it's kind of like how I'm summing it up. But you're going to have you're creating a middleman for water, and the middleman's going to be controlling the water to a certain point. And I don't know where this comes from, but it sounds very familiar with the United Nations Agenda 2030's idea of regionalizing water sources and water supplies and the control of those water sources and water supplies. I don't know if that's what's going on here, but it sounds very familiar to what the United Nations Agenda 2030 is trying to do around the world with regionalizing water source and water control. And that kind of concerns me, because when you're giving up some of that control, City Councilwoman Morris pointed out, is what if some of the other surrounding communities don't sign in? You know, are they going to be cut out and then they're going to be left to die because they don't have any water? You know, and if this is that important, then why isn't the state or federal government with the Corps of Engineers doing all of this themselves? Why do we need a third party? I don't know if it's a public-private enterprise. I don't understand what the JMUC is, but it's not a state resource, or it's not a state government entity. It's not a federal government entity. But if we did need to do all of this stuff, then why isn't the Army Corps of Engineers laying all of this out and doing its job, which this is kind of what the Army Corps of Engineers and the federal government is supposed to do. And then we're going to be transporting water from, about 50, 60 miles away down here, and we're not going to have control of that either. We're going to have to buy all of that land, or the easements or the right-of-ways on all of that land. That's a part of the $45 million. And that's going to increase because there are going to be a lot of people that figure this stuff out and say, hey, my little piece of property is worth gold. And then we're going to have to enter in a whole bunch of litigation to either take those properties or pay a little bit more, or however it's going to get settled out. And we've already seen that with trying to do some of our sewers and lift station stuff. You know, it costs more money, so it's going to add to it. And we're paying $45 million for someone else to control our emergency water plan for the next 30 or 60 years. So my only question is, do we not have the ability to look into building a reservoir of our own somehow that would even mitigate some of that, or a water reclamation facility that would take all of the wastewater and reclaim it for whatever our needs are and everything. And that really concerns me, that the regionalization of the water source is being attempted. So I don't like this. Sorry, it was a great presentation, but just giving up your control is not always a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. I will say, in a perfect world, yeah, we would be able to build our own reservoir, but I don't think we could do it for $45 million. I couldn't even fathom what it might cost. And I will tell you, one of my main concerns, and this is one thing that I had spoken with Mr. Cossey and Mr. Colvin about, is in years past, every time we hit even close to a drought, and we ask the community to conserve water, it's almost laughable to the community that we would ask them to do that. And we're not the only ones, because we're not the only ones that are getting water from one place. And it's almost like I see people water their yard more just to prove a point. And so it was, this past year was very, very, very concerning, especially when you're shutting down water towers because you're getting ready to pump mud. And I'll let, if Mr. Colvin or Mr. Cossey wants to address some of the other things, but a sense of security would be nice, knowing that there is a backup. It's kind of like having a generator on your house. Do you really have to have a generator if your power's out for 4 hours? Probably not. Is it good to know that you have that there just in case power's out longer than that? It sure is. And some sort of a backup plan for when if our wells run dry. That's important to me. It's important to the future. It's one of those things that if we didn't do it, people 25 years from now would be asking us what in the hell we were thinking and why we didn't put something in place now. That's my thoughts on the thing. I don't know if anything else from staff. Well, hold on, I haven't closed the public hearing yet. Real quick, would anyone else like to speak on this? I will close the public hearing. Anything else from staff?
No, great points, Mr. Sanders. I think the big takeaway to point out is that Southwest Missouri Water will not own the water. We will be purchasing, and we will be the sole owners of that 1 million gallons. They are simply serving as the conduit to be able to secure that water source and fund the initial allocation from the Corps. 20 years ago when we started, we knew no one entity could had the ability to secure the allocation from the Corps of Engineers through Stockton Lake. So coming together through a regionalized effort, it became affordable for all, and it also created a feasible path for us to purchase our needed allotment. So the big takeaway is that no one will be in control of the water. If purchased through the pass-through contract, the city of Nixa will be the sole owner of that 1 million gallons per day.
Travis, are we purchasing any water now or just using it from our own towers?
No, right now we are 100% ground source related. Everything that we are generating and using is pulled from the ground through our 13 wells and then transported through our 12 towers.
Okay.
Thank you.
I view this as kind of like electricity. I mean, we have to source our electricity somewhere. We have we charge electricity through our own utilities, but we have to go out and buy that somewhere else and source that somewhere else. And then there's times that we're using a lot of electricity or it's extremely hot and there's going to be challenges getting that electricity. This is just a backup plan. It's like, hey, if we run out of water, we have this source that we can pull from, is how I view this.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? All right. I think I've gone through everything. All right. If nothing else, I will accept a motion.
So made.
Second.
First by Mr. Lucas, second by Ms. Morris. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. All right. The last on the agenda, Resolution 2024-07.
Resolution number 2024-07, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Empire District Electric Company, DBA Liberty, for services related to engineering services and other proprietary work for utility relocations on Main Street. Presenting is Street Superintendent Jeff Russell.
Mayor, Council, good evening. This resolution would allow us to enter into an agreement with Liberty Electric to relocate their line that is located west of Main Street from Tracker to CC Highway. Since Liberty does have their own easement there, it would be our responsibility to pay for this relocation. That would be in conjunction with the Main Street expansion project. Liberty is requesting 30% of a total estimated amount to move this line. Right now, they're asking for that 30% for the engineering and some materials. That cost us $269,139. At the time of construction, they will bring forth another agreement, and I will present to you at that time for the remaining 70%, or $606,992. Again, this is one of those things that's necessary to complete the expansion of Main Street from Tracker to CC.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If no other questions, I will open up the public hearing if you would like to speak on this. I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? All right, I will accept a motion.
So made. Second.
First by Mr. Peterson, second by Mr. Lucas. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, anything else from staff?
Yes, Mayor, I'll just mention a couple of quick things. As Whitney mentioned earlier, the gala's coming up. So if it is something you, sorry, Becca sent out an email to council asking about tickets. So if you haven't responded back to her, I just ask that you do that so we can get the gala tickets taken care of. And then the other thing I just want to do a shout out. Actually, Jennifer sent an email to the mayor recently about the staff's budgets for 2023. And I just want to give a shout out to all the staff because every department's expenses came in under budget for 2023. So I just wanted to say thank you to all the different department heads and for Jennifer's work as well.
Under budget is good. And then just a reminder, the council meetings next month are, both of them state that they are special council meetings. The reason for that is because they are not on the second and fourth Monday of the month. They were moved because of various meetings and other things that were going on. And so we would have everyone here for those, but they will be the 6th and the 19th. So, put that in your calendar, Mr. Sanders. Wouldn't want you to show up on a day where we're not here.
Mayor,
All right.
Council, I wanted to direct you to our statistical data that we give you every month. If you look this month, you'll see kind of a wrap-up of the end of the year. I know we do an annual report that has a lot of information, and that will be forthcoming. But if you take a little look at that, it'll kind of give you a snapshot of what we did as far as the year with our totals and such. You'll see that year over year it almost looked like a carbon copy other than the calls for service. Certainly more calls for service, but interesting to look at that and maybe look at the last couple of years that's also attached to that as well if you want to get a real quick snapshot of kind of the body of work for the last year.
We went and spoke to the student council and their cabinet the other day and talking the comprehensive plan stuff, talking about different things throughout the city. And they said, every time I'm driving, I see a police. I think we have a lot of police cars, or a lot of police officers. And I said, okay, let me ask a question real quick. How many of you, when you're driving, are looking for police and paying attention? And every one of them raised their hand. And I believe Mr. Douglas said, now how many of you slow down because you know there's going to be a police? And they all raised their hand, and I said, you're welcome. So, yeah, you guys have definitely been busy, and thank you for keeping us updated and for everything you guys do. Anything else? Council? Staff? Don't forget, picture. All right, if nothing else, meeting adjourned. That